soldiers and everything. If you are wherever you are in the world, also different places are acknowledging different holidays, bank holidays. So the best to everybody wherever you are. It can be Monday morning, it can be Monday afternoon, it can be Tuesday morning, wherever you are today. Thank you for joining. Um, I will be here for a little while today. I'm going to see how many people come through. Yes, I had to take a day off yesterday. I was told some people, I got questioned about it. I said, well, be on every day because I don't want to burn out. You want to, you know. But anyway, got a chance to watch that basketball game last night. The Knicks came back third time that they've done it. They broke the record for the most 20-point come from behinds. Do I believe they missed? No. Um, they're going to start this poll up. Let me get that question up because this is one of them things where I'm just kind of like, I don't even know. Let me go ahead and get it. I don't want to say I was wrestling with it, but it's one of those kind of situations where it's like, is that believable? Really? Are they really that good? Is it really that believable? What's up? Your timing is perfect. Don't leave because I'm trying to send out my fillers because I just coming on and I want to get to my other social media spots. So don't leave. If the screen goes black. That's not. I didn't leave. It's just that I'm trying to send them out because YouTube doesn't cooperate. So don't move. And if I'm still talking and it's off, that's what's up. So start asking them questions because I got to get stuff cracking. Okay, I am back. Yeah, he's frustrating. He is frustrating. That's one of the reasons why he's always trade bait. But when he's on point, he's on. What he did best last night is that he drove to the lane. Because if he'd just settled for all them outside shots, that's why they got him. Though that's exactly why they got him. This is the moments they got him for to step up. Because without him, they're not making it out the first round. And this is why he's there. But can he keep it up though? Because Cat can be frustrating though. But you see, I tell you something. I ain't dumb. The powers that be want the Knicks and Minnesota to probably be in the final. New York is the only big franchise that's left. Think about it. That's all you got left. Because OKC is small town. Uh, Minnesota small. Indiana's definitely small. So they really hoping that there's something, and I'm sure that Adam Silver's hoping all these series go 7 games. I love a dramatic cliffhanger like a script. I'm sure of it. The Knicks are a 2.5 man team. Then Tibbs finally woke up and used his bench. Oh wow, give him a cookie. Why he doesn't think smart? You know, you can't be winning with that 2.5 man rotation. It'll burn you out. So, but anyway, it's a series, and Indiana better win the next game, or they're in trouble. in trouble. If they don't win the next one, they're in trouble. So anyway, that's how I'm talking about that. But yeah, I guess if you a fan of the game, maybe it's impressive you like that. But I don't like a team that always has to come from behind all the time because to me, it's like they're not a special team. They're not a great team. You know, you're not that lucky. You're not that lucky. For me, you know, they could any moment they could for on to get blowed out, and that could be it. So anyway, but let's get some comments in here because I'm coming here today. I missed out yesterday. It was I had to take a day, so I'm here today. So let's see what's up. I'll give it. We'll see what's going on. I need comments, and people can feel free to come through. Well, the powers that be want Minnesota to make it 2-2. It's a must win for OKC. I wouldn't want to think that because I got 4 games at home, that I'm gonna win all 4. They need to beat them tonight. But obviously, you think Minnesota's gonna do it? Yeah, he shoots too much sometimes. You see, I've said this about Brunson. I like Brunson. Do I buy him as a top tier player? Yeah, by default. And what I mean by that is he's definitely one of the best players going. However, it's the closing out that makes him more effective, not the way he plays throughout. Sometimes he just is. He's on that Luca tip, and I might do a video about that. He's actually on that Luca tip. Maybe that's why he got his butt shipped out of Dallas. Because Brunson be on that ball hog, the ball don't move, the rotation be off, and I might have to do a video about that. I ain't really paid a whole lot of mind because he doesn't put him in the first amount of James Harden because he doesn't have a pure outside shot like Harden does. Or he's tough and feisty and bulls his way through, but it's not and with the size but it's not because he's got so much great spacing that he creates but he knows how to manhandle and get what he need to get. But he does be frustrating though. He be on that. He definitely be on that Luca because he be hogging that rock. When they play looser, they're a better team. They've done. He talking about he had a comeback for Charles Barkley. I said no because between Tibbs being starfied and running people in the ground for 2 to 3 and not utilizing his bench, got me thinking. So he be on that Luca. He be on that Luca James Harden tip. And there's pluses and minuses to that. Pluses if you hitting your shots, you look great. The minuses is if you ain't making shots and your team has to keep coming from behind, it can wear you down and get on your nerves. So yeah, that's definitely a video I'm gonna touch upon Brunson because it's something I didn't even really think about it like that, but Brunson be on that though. That got me inspired. He was right because he wasn't fit for it. First of all, Tony was not the defender that Scottie Pippen was. He covered. And I'm gonna say this off the bench because of his size and versatility. He was scary. He could have been. He would have been like Ginobili if Ginobili don't start. Off the bench, he was a problem. But starting, are you kidding me? When he played with Iverson, he couldn't keep up. And Larry Brown was telling him to find himself, and he couldn't really understand the components. He somehow mistakes because he had a few big shots and he had a set shot and mobility that he somehow was gonna morph into Petrovic. But he was crying a lot. He wasn't better than Pippen. If they thought he was as good as Pippen, he would have been on the starting more. He was more effective with the second team, and he had a good step and he could shoot, but his rhythm would be no. Well, he's entitled to his opinion, but he couldn't carry Scottie Pippen's shoes. Come on now, he couldn't carry Scottie Pippen's flat top. Come on now, he tripping. They don't win no three peat if Kuko's starting and Pippen's off the bench. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Phil Jackson made the right move with that. It didn't work when Pippen had him as a 1-2 punch. Now think about it. He had a shot against New York, but his defense was suspect. No, he's the Lulu. He come out here talking about he would have been like Luca. I'm like, in what lifetime? Yeah, you were bad. I will give you this. If you were an overseas player back in the day and you could ball and they checked you out, yeah, you got some love. But to sit up here and say that you was gonna be like Luca, or you gonna put up 25, 30 points a game and lead a team with what I saw you as Tony Kukoc. I didn't see you as this. You weren't Ginobili who was 6 man to a starter. Okay. You didn't morph into that dude. You and Drazon the Dragon were about kinda he was. Because he couldn't keep up. What's happening? How you doing? Appreciate you. Glad to see you, Tom. Thank you for coming through. Yeah, he didn't fit Larry Brown's system. And believe me, Iverson just asked for someone who could score, and he couldn't even do that. So I don't know what he. I don't. I think that he must be thinking that people got blind memory. I like Shrimp better, but Shrimp didn't have the same options. If they win, if they beat them like they're supposed to, I mean, these teams are pretty evenly matched though, because the Knicks do got guys who can score regularly 20 plus points. It's just that the Pacers have 4 or 5 guys, but the Pacers are consistent. And then it's the unknown. So they settle for shooting too many. Like I said, Rick Carline knows better than to blow too many leads. I like Detlef in Indiana and of course with Seattle, but he never played on a team that was a championship team. He went to one finals. Would have been interesting had he had the same luxury as Tony Kukoc. Um, But Detlef knew his role though. He wasn't delusional. Tony Kuko's a bit on the Lulu side. Doesn't mean I didn't like his game for what he did, because I thought off the bench with that size and that length, especially in that Seattle series, problematic. And Phil Jackson utilized him greatly. However, to sit up here and act like he's going to take Scottie Pippen's position, no. You might put up a good practice run against him and you could play a bit, but you weren't that dude. You weren't that dude. These cats be tripping me out how they be talking in hindsight. Jordan didn't even look at Kukos as that kind of dude. You don't get it twisted. Because unless you can do what Paul Gasol did between Kobe and Lamar Odoms, no one's gonna take you serious, yo. So no. Anyway, but yeah, thank you, Tom. Wishing everybody, like I said, with the Memorial Day, remembering our soldiers. People, you know, show the love. People split about this New York. It feels kind of funny when I think about what they're doing, because I can't tell if it's real or not. I just feel kind of like, you know, and I definitely don't feel like they're a championship team. But it's something crazy. I didn't really like me. I don't understand what that means. I didn't really like me, the one of those guys. What does that mean? I didn't really like. I don't understand what that means. It's kind of confusing me, Tom. You got to explain that one. You're telling me you didn't like either one of those guys? Yeah, because they did the same things, and the thing is that had he been more focused, I disagree with Kevin Garnett. Um, okay, I got you now. They underachieved, but some of that's on Jokic. Obviously his it's on him is that you got to step up, and you're not getting the most out of your guys. Uh, Aaron Gordon played out, balled out. After that, it's debatable who was next. Jamal was hit and miss and streaky as usual. If it ain't playing the Lakers, he just don't, you know, he's streaky. And Russell Westbrook is playing all right, but he can't give you that kind of blow no more. Michael Porter Jr. was on a milk carton, and Braun, I like Christian Braun a lot. He can ball, but they have no effort on defense, and they're just a team that it's a lot of stat padding, which looks nice. But he was basically feeding ego. He wasn't finishing up as a coach. I think he underachieved that run, and they still got to the second round with him or not. So they were cooked either way. So they had to make a move, but I think they got to make some roster moves. Okay, so now they weren't going to win nothing. I think that people are starting to be in love with Jokic, but they in love with the stats. They're not in love with the main thing, and that is, can you get the job done? That's what it's about with me. You know, we could sit here all day and talk about, you know, does he, but he did. Hello, how you doing? Thank you for coming through. You got to be able to get the job done. We paying you to win championships. You got a great player in his peak in his prime, and he's playing for his legacy. It ain't about just stat padding, and that's what Mike Malone. He's doing good commentary. He gonna try to audition. I don't know where he gonna go though. He ain't gonna get a better job unless he got to coach Milwaukee, and then you get to coach. Go to Greek Freak, but that's not gonna happen. But I'm just saying, he messed up. Well, Jamal Murray's not on Jason Tatum's level for one thing. Brown is good. Gordon came up big. Gordon is probably the second most important player, and for them, Brown I'd say by third, but Ed Murray, Porter Jr. They just don't have a cohesive team. They don't play no defense. They don't make no stops. Murray is not in the same conversation with Tatum. He could be one of the 12 to 15 when he's playing at his best, but the difference is that Tatum at his best is somewhere in the arguably the fourth to seventh best player going in the league today. Murray at his best, and he's at his best, it's like 12 to 15. There's a big gap. They're not in the same. They're not in the same area code. That doesn't mean Jamal Murray can't score like Tatum, but his streakiness and what he does isn't the same. He doesn't play well enough off of Jokic, and sometimes he's just infuriating. Well, Gordon played good this. He played great this series, and he became a big for him. But he didn't do much the last game though, and he cried about the every other day, which I thought was heinous. Because I'm like, look, man, everybody got to play every other game. If you winning, it ain't no problem. If you losing, now you got a problem. Come on, man, take that L and keep it moving. But y'all need to work on the interiors of what y'all got. Y'all don't play no defense. You can't stop the perimeter, and you are lucky to get by the Clippers. And now, you know, you lost to OKC, and it's one of them coulda, woulda, shoulda. This seesaw, which is just all this up. So that's how I look at that, though. But anyway, all right, now let's get some more takes and conversation. We got good people coming through. Let's see. I have a perfect example for you. Murray plays like he's kind of. I wish Jamal Murray was as good as Andrew Toney. I was an Andrew Toney fan. Andrew Toney was known as the Boston Strangler. And you want to say Jamal Murray is the Lakers Strangler, but except Andrew Toney's legs gave out on him. That's the only reason. Toney was legit. You could make the case he could be as good as Moses and Dr. J. I don't look at Jamal Murray on the same level as Andrew Toney. He could score more, but not the same. Vinny was more in the postseason. The microwave, that was strictly business time. But I get where you're going at with it. But no, I like Andrew Toney a lot. He just, the injuries got him. And it was a different era, too. You give Andrew Toney this era when you can score like that. And look, Tony was one of the best players that didn't finish. He was revered and respected. No one is looking at Jamal Murray quite in the same sense. I'm sorry, I just don't. And Jamal is frustrating, but it's a different shit. Jamal Murray is kind of like Donovan Mitchell. One of them guys. He stat pads with some of the best of them, but it don't count for what it's supposed to count for. He got him a ring, but no one's gonna sit around and debate Jamal Murray as an all-time great player or a Hall of Famer. Andrew Toney's one of those guys that he don't get hurt and plays consistent. He's a Hall of Famer. There's a difference. Vinny Johnson was mainly a guy who could just flat out score, and he played his role. He's what I call a role player's role. But then again, you want a guy to happen in the postseason, and Tony came up in the postseason. Vinny Johnson did. Jamal Murray he's had big games, but then he didn't disappear like Casper. So it all depends on which way you are looking at it. All depends. But that's a good, I like that though. Lisa, I know that you are pumping some energy out of your soul. So what we got here? All right, now come on, let's get some talking going because I am going to get people commentary. I know we got some people out here. Don't be shy now. If you want to come on and talk, feel free. We talk about whatever. We just talking about this basketball right now. If you want to talk about Memorial Day, want to talk about Didi, want to talk about the weather, feel free. Feel free. As long as we got conversation, I will be on here and I will give it a while. So I'm definitely hitting different platforms in different places. So expounding content. But anyway, yeah, to Jay Will, I'm gonna definitely talk about that Brunson thing because I am definitely getting Luca and James Harden ball hogging. It's kind of got me kind of seeing why he got traded. Mhm. And I didn't really even think about it before, but yeah, I'm starting to see why he got taken out because it's like, yo, they actually play pretty good. He's a feisty Rocky Balboa type, slug it out, physical, but he gotta get off that ball. He gotta get off that candy though. He been hanging on to that bag a little too long. Okay, let's get some comments going. Hopefully everybody's coming on through. What's up? Yeah, it's kind of like watching a Rocky movie. He slug it out. He slug it. Not much. Glad to have you coming through. Appreciate you coming on. Always a pleasure. Thank you for coming. Yeah, he's like a boxer that he just kind of. It's like watching Holyfield fights. And then he hang in there. Holyfield did have some good fights, but Brunson's game, he hogs the rock. Now I understand why they got rid of him in Dallas because if you had him and Luca, that shot clock would go down. You got two cats hanging on for 12 seconds for dear life. And he's not as explosive as Harding. Doesn't draw the contacts that Luca does. I think he played hard. I give him his due. He didn't put the Knicks back on the map. Don't get it twisted. And to his defense, but they did it before game one when he was on the bench. They went on that big run. They moved the ball without him. See, what are you noticing? Ball hoggers are not the thing right now. I'm gonna have to do a video about Jalen Brunson. I hadn't even thought about it in capacity because he doesn't really like. I respect his game, and I will say this: he's done a lot for New York Knicks basketball. They got some people thinking he's in the GOAT conversation. I ain't gonna go there, but he's definitely done enough where they are a legit postseason contending team, and he brought credibility back to them because James Dolan's ignorant behind. But that's another story, another video. But he's still. Yeah, that's what happens with Luca. That's what happens with LeBron to extent. It didn't happen to him early in part of his career, but they're guys who hog the ball who are supposed to be facilitators and set everybody up, and then they just end up shooting and taking bad shots, and then they end up getting behind by 15, 20 points. And there are defensive liabilities. He falls into this criteria with Luca and James Harden, and that is yeah, that's a reality that I'm noticing. you're gonna be a ball hog, you better be able to shoot that thing, and you better be able to be a cat that cats will roll on. Don't be acting like you're a point guard hogging up the ball and you got 20 shots and 3 assists. That's not gonna get it done. But see, Tibbs goes for that, and he's able to play all long winded and be tire himself out. They don't make game easy on themselves. That's the problem I have with Tibbs and what I'm seeing with the Knicks. The game is not easy. It's a struggle. Um, they can win games and they can lose them, and that's marginal, homogenized parity. Which, for some basketball fans, they like that. It's like a cliffhanger. I don't. You hit me, I hit you, we hit back. I mean, no. You supposed to either take that team out and be done with them, or you know. But you run the risk, and every series ain't meant to go 6 or 7 games. They got lucky against the Pistons because of a bad call and the Pistons being green and what have you. Because that could have been a 6, 7 game series. I don't really like that because I don't respect teams like that. That's got all the makings of a fluke, and it just seems like it just was set up for something that doesn't even feel ethical. Just saying. I'm getting caught off a line, but well, he always lies all the time. Because he doesn't know the half as much of the stuff that he talks about. He's not a real historian. He you know, cats today who can do one thing right, um, because for the only reason why he get so he sees Steph Curry, he's known for what? Shooting. Steph's underrated for driving to the hole. Underrated with his left hand and his passing, and his rebounding is underrated. But modern point guards are like tweeners today, but it still comes down to who can facilitate and move it. And Halliburton is more of a traditional. SGA is more of a tweener. Brunson tweener. And Minnesota situation is kind of complicated. But anyway, he doesn't know the half of the mess that he talks about. If they had 3 point lines, no hand checking, and they allow you to do the stuff that they did today, it would have already been on display. Tiny Archibald led the league in scoring and assists, and he did it at a high level. Come on now. That record ain't going to be broken. Oscar Robinson's triple doubles with no 3 point line, physicality in the paint. Think about what he went through. No Euro stepping, pistol Pete. I mean, come on now. I have not watched an episode of Mind the Game. I've only got some excerpts. I don't even think I've even used a video to talk about him and Steve Nash because he basically trying. That Steve Nash got the same page boy haircut and the part, trying to get him a job to come back. Well, let's talk about why he got dissed by Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving when they said we don't need a coach. See, you want to modernize everything. Cats didn't do that openly like they do today. They basically said, even though he was a 2 time league MVP, they disrespect him off the word jump. Durant and Kyrie, two big time players in a modern era who played. I know Durant did. Durant played when Nash was still around. So the lack of respect was huge. But no, I'm supposed to believe that everybody that's up today is all kumbaya and all lovey dovey and touchy feely and don't have no, you know. That's what they try to tell you. But LeBron don't be knowing the half of the ignorance that he spews. He thinks he's deeper than what he is. Sometimes not having a college education or even going to school, he deserved to be a pro. And some other times he just sounds like an ignorant jive turkey. He, of course, he is. Well, he wasn't wanted. You know, if you saw the before he even started, Durant and me and my homeboy were cracking up. Durant and Kyrie like, we don't need a coach. They said that off the jump. They treated him like he was a substitute teacher. You ever see a substitute teacher with them nerdy glasses and the band-aid tape, and they're like, what do y'all do around this time? And you tell that teacher, oh yeah, we just have Cracker Jack parties. We going popcorn and drink. Okay. We turn on the boombox. Okay. They treat him like a substitute teacher. They treat him like a scrub. So he came in. He stunk. He wasn't even as good as Lawrence Frank. Uh, yeah, you know why? Because the NBA wants everything. They don't even want to include Dr. J in the NBA. They want everything to be about Magic Bird and Jordan, which is nauseating. Now, one thing that is true, and I'm probably one of the few people that's going to say this because I'm not afraid to say it. I am tired of Michael Jordan and LeBron James for that very reason. Because they don't let historians write about it. They don't give Dr. J his due for saving the game. I was hanging out with a guy at church yesterday who said Magic Johnson saved the NBA. This is all they have you think. Magic Bird Jordan. That's it. They have you think everything started after 1980. They don't tell about Dr. J. They don't want nobody to write. So unless you're a historian, you don't. At least in other sports, they understand that that story has to be, even though the NFL is funny time when it comes to O.J. Simpson. And I don't hear nothing about what happened off the field. If you're a part of the culture and you were in it, you have to acknowledge it all because you're half-hearted. And they have a way of doing it in baseball with Barry Bonds. They do. That's why I don't have much respect for how they cover the game. They don't cover it in totality. Whatever. Well, to say he saved American pro ball, you're almost forgetting that a guy like O.J. Simpson was a transcendent figure. You're forgetting that a guy like Muhammad Ali was a transcendent figure at that same time. You're forgetting a guy like Reggie Jackson, who was in arguably the most important sport, was a transcendent figure. Now, he was big for basketball, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell you Dr. J and what I remember that time was bigger than those other guys. And I could throw Arthur Ashe in for tennis, but he didn't have that kind of flair because tennis. But OJ was household. Muhammad Ali, household. And Pele was big too. That's another story, but Pele was big too. But oh yeah, because the cat was like because the NBA was too whitewashed. That's why they were all stiff, and that was back then when they were scared that they used to make jokes about the New York Knicks had all brothers. They were making the N word about that. That was a that you can Google that if you don't know. That was the scary horror. Nah, he did. He did. If you weren't, and if it wasn't Dr. J, George Gervin had some love, but Dr. J was when he dunked all over Bill Walton in the finals with the afro and the jury and how he was. Had his movie before Space Jam 2, The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. Had his Chucks. See, history repeats itself, but it's done in a different way. But there was no Spike Lee to direct Dr. J in the 70s. There was no marketing for that. Larry O'Brien was a very starch white commissioner. And they didn't really push that. David Stern pushed that agenda. But that's the problem with the NBA. That's the problem I have with it. They did that. They did that with NBC when they was pushing Jordan and all that mess. And look, great as he was and all that, they did that mess. Yeah, I saw that. But it wasn't the same like the fish that say Pittsburgh. You see what I'm getting at is Dr. J was like a bigger player in a motion picture. And he had crossover appeal. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention Sugar Ray Leonard. Because Sugar Ray won the gold medals for USA. He was crossover. So all them guys intertwined in that 70s run where you had O.J. Simpson, Muhammad Ali, Dr. J, Sugar Leonard, Reggie Jackson, Arthur Ashe. And if you wanted to use Pele across the pond. The Cornbread Earl and Me was a hood movie. We liked it. It was big. Jamal Wilkes, yeah. Remember all that? But Silky Wilkes wasn't Dr. J. He got roles and playing for UCLA came in handy. And winning the chip with Golden State came in handy. And I remember when Larry Fishburne was a kid. Mm-hmm. But the fish just say Pittsburgh was as far as that big time athlete type of situation. They wanted to see if Dr. J had crossover appeal like that. And he did to an extent. To an extent. I remember Reggie Jackson was on the Love Boat. OJ was huge. It gets shunned because the ABA was a threat. You gotta remember when you were a threat to the corporates, that's why. And it was more fun. It was the rebels. It really was. It was against the status quo. Now the status quo, you had parity. I remember the Sonics winning the championship. The Washington Bullets had a great team. Golden State was. You had real parity. But Knicks had won. You had a lot of great talent. But that ABA thing, when Wilton all went over there, that was the counter. He was on his. There really hasn't been a more classier player since him, in my personal opinion. Some people might nudge Kareem to an extent. He was classy. He just embodied. I never looked at Michael Jordan as classic. They worked on him, and he was, but I never looked at him in the same capacity as Dr. J. There was a certain elegance with Julius Erving that I never felt with Jordan. Jordan had a great game where you were intrigued, but it just that his totality was not of the same. It didn't hit the same. It does have a strong argument for greatest talent because you got a lot of great players who played in that era. I mean, Bill Walton, had he stayed healthy, could have been the Jokic of his era. You had Kareem, who was incredible. Dr. J, incredible. You had Wilt Chamberlain still doing things, Jerry West still doing things, Walt Clyde Frazier, Earl Pearl Monroe, Dave Cowens. You had some incredible players. I think Havlicek was still playing around there, George Gervin. He had some incredible talent emerged from that era. Bird and Magic were 70s products. So that era was deep in talent. It's just that the commercialization of it is another argument. And that's what you're really dealing with if we're going to be honest. The game got commercialized more. It went from a friendly pop and a sandwich and some chips to a corporate meal, and that's what you're dealing with. So I like when we had these conversations. So keep them coming. They don't teach that though. They don't teach that though. They ain't gonna tell you how dynamic Dr. J was. He meant so much to so many because it just people felt him. He had a soul about him, you know, and he connected. So, but anyway, it's crazy to think Bird and Man is gonna. Yeah, well, you grew up. I looking at see that's another thing. Cats watch TV differently too. You got to see guys, and you got to grow up with them, and you thought about okay, if I get to your sophomore, junior high school, it changed when cats went directly from high school to the pros, but also the thing just changed, and it just was done differently, different aesthetic. But you weren't that far, but you were removed, but then you became part of that. That's what something to look forward to. You know, nowadays guys coming to the pros and they grew up watching Steph and LeBron and Durant on them, but it don't hit the same because they gotta, you know, look at Trey Young. I mean, you see the difference in the hits. Now you just hoping that somebody lives up to the hype because everybody's coming with some hype. Now LeBron definitely played up to a lot of his hype, but there was a lot of other factors that helped out too. So they come with asterisks, and people don't like to hear you say that because They're like, well, how dare you say that? And why would you say that? And you can't say that. And but you're not lying. But you know how it goes. But it was a time to imagine that because the game was kind of like the same in the sense there was no 3 point line. There wasn't all this. They were allowing you to play both sides of the ball and how you dictating what you did. But guys back then are penalized because of how many teams. Well, to be honest with you, they got excuse me, pardon me. They've got too many teams now. If you want to know, they finally getting the parity up to date, but we don't have an ABA to counter. We don't have anything to counter, and you're hoping that Ant Edwards is that dude, and you know you hoping. That's what Adam Silver and them are hoping. They like the street ball. They try to incorporate everything. This is the funny thing to answer your question, TSP. Thank you. To answer your question about what you said about why they don't have the writers, because what they have done is they have manipulated the and one mixtape, the Ruckers, the Euro, and when they need to act like they tough, they throw a little '80s roughing you up here and there with the Martin 3 point. If you watch it, it's like a big old puff Dr. Dre sample. They have sampled everything before your eyes to manipulate it to make you think that this is best thing that's going. That's what they've done. They don't even ref the game no more the same. There's not free throw disparities can still happen, but it doesn't hit like it once did. They've manipulated it before your eyes. You're getting glimpses of all of it the last 50 years. It's basically a jukebox in front of you. It just depends on how they want to call it. But they'll have you thinking, oh, they're playing like this. When the Knicks had that game against Boston, neither team scored 95 points. That wasn't because it was some great defensive battle, because they want to sell an agenda. That's why. And it's about marketing. And the thing that's going to tie Jordan and LeBron together ain't even about basketball. It's about the marketing. You have to watch my live stream for me to really get off like this because I don't do this in the regular videos, and there's a reason why. Because I know that I'll get more viewers here and it'll reflect more, and then I'll hit the points more. People be bored to listen to a 3 or 4 5 minute, 6 7 8 minute 9 minute 10 minute convo about that very topic, but that is done on purpose because they don't want you to know nothing. The whitewashing that happens with so-called DEI and taking black folks out of these museums is the same tactics that these professional sports use, but in a different way. Yeah, you say predominantly black league, but we want to centralize the big person on the plantation for the auction. Michael Jordan was the big auctioning, and it's LeBron for the auction. With Magic and Steph looking on the side, and Shaq and Kobe on the side. But you know how this works. They write about stuff that because it sells, because this is what they pushed. LeBron came out of high school. He's the last wonder they be pushing that agenda. It's like Jordan came out after Magic and Bird, played in a big city. Everything rolled up with the shoes. It's all marketing. It gets very tiring. We don't really get to talk about the real game, but that's where they're more linked. If you want to link them for that, I wish Rob Parker and Chris Broussard and Stephen A. Smith and all these heads on sticks that always want to put them as 1 and 2 and all that tell the reason why they really doing it, because of the marketing and the what I call the corruption of the NBA plantation to sell their biggest auction plant. Has nothing to do with the actual game. Nothing. But if we're talking about the marketing aspect, identifiability, making more revenue through the things that we shouldn't even really concern ourselves with. Yes, we want our players to get paid. We want them to live well and comfortably. However, what does that have to do with putting the ball through the net? And that is what's the selling point of this whole thing. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. It ain't got nothing to do with that other stuff. That other stuff is nothing. So when you sit up here with some old turkey talking about, yeah, That's my top five. I said, no. When they say the one and the two, they ain't talking about no basketball. Even in Jordan's case, it ain't about basketball because Oscar Robinson pointed out eloquently. Over half of Jordan's love affairs because he could sell shoes in the merch. We can debate what your rings meant. He ain't past Bill Russell, and he got the same rings as Kareem, and only one more. He got one more ring than Magic, one more than Duncan, one more than Kobe, two more than Shaq. The point is this: 6-0 in the finals, didn't go 7 games. I know that, and it's child, but that's the part of the story. Well, when Bob Costas talked about Michael Jordan, he said he called him the greatest and the most overrated player at the same time. Context puts everything in perspective. Because who are you gonna call great when you say they? Well, you can say they all overrated. So how do you come down to one being the greatest? Yeah, it's got no. It's not even to do with the. This ain't got nothing to do with what this has got a different agenda. And when you understand that, you get it. And every so often they move on to another battle. The latest battle in music right now in hip hop ain't even more about Biggie and Tupac no more. It's more about Tupac and DMX. So they done moved on from that Biggie thing. And see, I be watching how these things shift here and there. Well, maybe we'll talk about this. Maybe we'll talk about that. It's the way it's manipulated. So it really goes into these degrees. That's all. And most people don't sit there and question it. So anyway, like I said before, that's why I do this on the live stream. I wouldn't do it on a regular video. You don't get too many people gonna unless they want to get analytical about it. But the real reason why they got them one and two has got to do with the marketing aspect of them. Yep, ain't got nothing to do because they think they necessarily is the one and the two. They say anything for clicks and views on TV, but they have to. Yeah, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. What's all marketing? When Jordan came, I mean LeBron came out and he was talking about he was gonna not wear the 23, but then he talked about the number six. I'm like, well, do you understand? Well, what is thrown out there and what you actually got is two different entities. You got agents, you got marketing, you got, and you got to do so much to get it. And again, these cats, again, you get paid, but then you got injuries, entourages. I just saw Jimmy Butler in France, and I'm like, yo, you cried and moaned to get out of Miami. You gave that job in Golden State, and this is what you're doing. You should be working on your game, or you should be working on your resume because they probably looking to package you. Ain't nobody gonna pay you no 60, $70 million a year at this stage. So they probably thinking maybe we can package his butt and send him to Houston or send him to Charlotte and get Lonzo, get Ball, Langelo or something. You never know. So, but yeah, it's not like it is. Well, that's the delusion the NBA has done. Yeah, I saw it, and he was right because he plays up enough to appear that he's doing something. I called him out this whole season because he does enough to kind of. It's kind of like if I wash myself clean and I appeal something, then it looks like I'm clean. But the reality is, you still ain't clean. You just washed up enough to offset the sin. He didn't go to Golden State and step up like he was supposed to because he's older and he ain't that kind of player. But he puts on enough to look like he can. He wasn't. because he doesn't have a shot. That's why I had this one cat that was on here arguing me how great he is, and he's trying to see. I'm gonna tell you something too. If you watch Jimmy Butler, right, he must think he looks like James Harden. He must think he got a beard, like he gonna Euro step and get those calls. That's what he be trying to do. He's not a pure 3 point shooter. He drives to the hole hard. He play hard. He's one of those guys. I'd say if he's really on his best, probably 20 points a game to about 23, 24. That cat going 25 to 30, that ain't him. You know, bless Rachel Nichols because bouncing that ball and during the lockdowns was huge. Yeah, that Jimmy never came back. Oh, I think there'll be another American player that wins the MVP. I think they want Ant Edwards. I think the push, if Ant Edwards can find a way to beat OKC, go to the finals, win the chip, he will be. Because if Jason Tatum ain't gonna do, Jason Tatum don't sell no tickets like that, but Ant does. Oh, I think they will. I think they will. I think it'll get closer than you think, but I think it's gonna be like an Ant Edwards cat. Jason Tatum might get a token one when they get tired of giving it to others. I think that they play. Well, I'll say this. Let me address. Let me see how I would say that. I don't think they. I don't think Luca had. I think Luca's problem is that he hasn't been dealt with a real situation. See, and he because of his skill set, he got carte blanche. But this gonna be real interesting playing with LeBron, how he comes in shape, what kind of plays. If he's about a championship, he will change his ways. He got to a finals. He's got to feel like he's got a W already. He's been to an NBA finals. He doesn't have a token MVP yet. He's considered one of the three best players going. But if he's already succumbed, then he's already peaked, then he's gonna pull a James Harden and go fat and lay on his belly like Buster Douglas in the middle of the ring. Jokic is getting exposed. I think the problem is that I don't think they succumbed. I just think that they still playing at a level that's a high level, but it's the team concept that drags them down. The lack of the right coach, the lack of the right flavor. You know, I think that they have to have the right system. Yeah, yeah. I had that Wilt Chamberlain who's running the asylum, and he did the ball movement, but not the ball hog. You know, Luca watched some coups and he watched a couple things, but again, his skill set loans himself to be a walking triple double. He has to find out how to utilize that, play with and without the ball, and make that connect. So, but he's been in situations with the Dallas team that underachieved, overachieved, and he's in a Lakers situation where we don't really know. I don't think people really care about Boston. They hate them because of their reputation, but how can you hate this team? Now, you don't have to like Jason Tatum because you may think he's a cornball, and then him and Jalen Brown, like if you mix the two parts together, you might have one incredible player. I don't know. I don't know. I can't even hate the Celtics because they're not that they underachieve. I say a dome team. I think him playing does help him. TSP is right. Because if Jason Tatum won a ring in Cleveland or somewhere else without that, it probably would just kind of treat him like they look at him like Richard Hamilton or something, or treat him like Tony Parker or something. By being with that jersey, that's why he can pop off and say, "I want to be mentioned with Pierce and Bird and him." He would never pop off if he was with a lesser team that won a ring. Just saying. He's giving you Pete Sampras putting your butt to sleep. Duncan putting your butt to sleep, except not as dominant as those two. Now, if he won 2 or 3 rings in that uniform, then he gets a different argument. But right now, he's lacking. He's lacking. TSP is right. It does wonders for him. But that goes with anybody though, especially if they're lacking in the persona. So that jersey does carry weight, and that's another thing about LeBron's situation with LA because they needed to do some PR to clean up the Kobe Bryant situation on aisle 8. Magic wasn't by accident. He called him in the middle of the night. Say, "You want to come to LA?" See, all these things happen, and if you can sell jerseys and you got popularity and you're seen as Mr. Clean and all that, they find a way. One back scratches the other. You know how it goes. It's just walking business. So, um, but see, you got a point. But remember what I was saying about it being too white bread? That's what made the ABA blew up because people looked at them as too white bread, though. They were, but they weren't. They got kind of mundane. They got kind of like it was just seen as too milk toasty. So the ABA had some soul to it. Because Boston had a reputation when Bird and them played. And that's what brought them to be the team that you love to hate. Ironically, they didn't have two black head coaches and all that, and they went to finals and stuff. Just saying. Only if he comes back and wins a championship. Only if he comes back, wins a championship, and he is qualified for the league MVP, and he's the front top line. I think that people genuinely who like him, I think the dude is cool. I respect him. I mean, but I just think that he's bland in personality, and I also think that he doesn't have that tough guy knock your butt out. And I think that had he made a statement this year, in light of what happened with Steve Kerr over in France and what have you, I think that's what the people want more than anything. They just think that he's almost pampered. They think it's like too good to be true because he doesn't show another side to his game. Well, Gretzky was part of the problem because he was a corporate man who they utilized that to sell. And so, what they say, right message, wrong messenger. There you go. The NBA's problem is that they trying to be a sample of everything without having an identity. There's no real identity. Yeah, you can be both and whatnot. Well, which MJ are you talking about? See, now that's because that applies to both of them. When you say MJ, Magic Johnson playing point guard at 6'9" and what he did playing in that high level and going to all them finals and winning and smiling and grinning, etc., was just as problematic as Michael Jordan's situation. So it was blessings and a curse. And Bird even came out and said Magic never played nobody over in the West. His road was a lot easier. People have been saying the same things for eras and decades. It's just that we romanticize certain things because the game had a balance of a yin and a yang. It's the difference when teams have identity and when they don't. That's the difference in a nutshell. So, but NHL still allows you to do certain things, to fight and stuff. But they also had star power. They had to have star power, and that's where the WWF comes in. The wrestling is about star power. You gotta sell jerseys. You had to pay attention to Magic. Magic is the only guy on this kind of level. No disrespect to Jason Kidd or Ray John Rondo or some of these other cats. He the only cat that he could beat you with 2 points and he beat you and fill up a stack sheet. So it's a big difference. What's up, Tig? Good to have you. Thank you for coming through. If you know anything about fundamental basketball, yeah, I'll tell you a story. I played a pickup game about. I still remember. It was about. Okay, cool. Let me bring this up to you real quick. I played a pickup game, making my shots, all that right. The toughest person I went up against, this guy was from. I want to say he was from. I can't remember where he was from. Yeah, that would be. But that should be a movie. That should be a commercial. Don't let Spike don't miss an opportunity because since he's got ASAP Rocky in movies, maybe he can get Papa Halliburton in a role too. Mhm. Anyway, went up against this. We were playing pickups. This dude, he was older, 10, 15 years older. He set these hard picks. And do you know of all the people I went against, that was a headache because his body was staying still. He was like an immovable object. That is a lost art in today's game. Guys who know how to set high screens. See this all ISO ball and shooting long range. There's no creativity in it. You're it's kind of I'll put it to you like this. It's the difference between watching the way Michael Jackson danced and the way Usher or Chris Brown dances. Because what Michael did, it was simplistic, but yet it was more effective. These cats out here doing acrobatics and flips and twirls, they're very mobile, but they have to do twice as much to get hit you with the same result. It's the difference when you watch a Motown 25 and watch some of these other people perform. And that's the same thing with this basketball. You got a hard pick set. It goes a long way. And you got to understand what's going on involved. Setting screens, backdoor cutters, making moves, you know. So now people get excited about shooting long range shots. They think they can make everybody winded and tired. Well, everybody's playing the same way because basically, if you're doing yoga and you're doing, crazy eights and all that and suicides, that's what you geared for. Does that mean that you're playing at top of the line ball? No, no. So, but that's what we're dealing with, though. That's where the game is at, unfortunately. But yeah, Halliburton and Spike, that could be a commercial. Spike won't miss an opportunity because, you know, so. But Magic did because you had to respect what Magic was doing. You had to keep your eye on him. The way he drove and used the rock, no one is touching that. If LeBron actually played like that, then he would have his team playing better. He don't. That's where you get your teammates involved. What's up? What's up? How you doing? So Steph, like Dwayne Wade, understood that. Like Tim Duncan understood that. There's only a handful of guys that are unselfish. What's happening? How you doing? Thank you for coming through. Yeah, that's a gift in itself. Understanding your role, back cutters, uh, the little things. That's team ball. That's why when you used to beat the Spurs, it felt like you won two chips in one because they made you work. Duncan was fundamental, made you do everything, and you had to check it. That's how thorough it was. There's not that kind of basketball no more. This basketball now is like watching Romper Room. Kids taking over they taking over the crayons and the papers, and they doing what they want. There's no structure, and that's what you seeing. But this is what Adam Silver wanted. So I told you it's part WWF. It's not this. It's not just the Euros and people want to be quick to making like people just they want to turn this into like a Trump said. Well, we closed them up. We no, they ain't got to do with it. This is what they wanted. They thought we got to go get the casual watcher because we don't want a product where we're actually grinding it out. We want a product where, and I'm not saying cats ain't athletic because they got to be on their P's and Q's. You got to still do the fundamentals. However, the play is anything but fundamental. They let people walk, flop, roll over, you know, Bonnerman Bailey. meets WWE. That's what we got now. So that's what we are. That's what we are. And that's why the voices of decision are speaking. So, all right, now if you're on here, please come on here. Let's see. Let's see you. I think I'll be on for I got another hour. At least another half hour, at least. Because I've been on for over an hour now. So we're going to see what we're dealing with. Got a lot of people in the view section, so feel free to come on through. And if you got anything you want to say, feel free. Don't hesitate. Make it a good day. Where everybody at? Feel free. Let's get into it. Cali Dash. Just waiting for people to give some comments. It's gotten quiet again. They get too quiet, then I think people getting bored and they're going to sleep. So we are alive and well today. Yeah, because you gotta have someone that you love to hate and root for. Boxing, you had Tyson. He carried the heavyweight by himself. Floyd Money Mayweather just got through carrying. Gotta have that villain. Yeah, there's no villain. LeBron should be his most hated right now, or Steph or some. They lose, and people are sad, and he still won't stop tweeting and texting and everything. He won't go away, so you can't miss him. Who do you despise that's playing basketball today? There's no villain. But then again, you're not in love. The media's in love with pushing agenda. They're not pushing because people are loving it. They want to see LeBron and Steph together. Somehow they want this kumbaya. It's crazy how that works. Durant is probably the closest thing to polarizing villain, but he too washed for us to care. And Kawhi Leonard is the guy that we're frustrated the most by. Because though he's one of the greatest and everything, there's so many uncharted chapters that didn't come to fruition. So who's our villain? Is it Damian Lillard? We don't. They don't like Shay. Shay got a chance to be a villain, even though I don't see why. But Jokic got them falling in love to an extent, but they don't really because they don't have anything. And then Luca is the Pillsbury Doughboy that they like for the hype, but it ain't because he's doing anything so grand. You don't have a villain. So the casual is not really even checking because again that comes with the market. Now, if the Knicks go and win the finals, the casual could come back. But you didn't hear me say that loudly. Keep Adam Silver's office doors bugged. Check the security. The team that couldn't do it is right there, and there's never a league that's safe. Does that sound like a movie script? Nobody likes James Dolan. He's a villain. It's an interesting storyline. So that's what I'm getting at. Again, I only do this on the live stream. I would never do this in a regular video because it wouldn't get no traction. But you come here live, I will go uncut with that. And it's not by accident. I already explained to you why they got Jordan and LeBron 1 and 2. Explain to you where you need a villain to win and all the intricacies. This is what they try to sell you on. This is what we're dealing with. 83% saying yes. Okay. Interesting. The poll is coming through. Okay. We overseas right now. See Maryland. Well, yeah, because that's what they grew up on. Because the guys play hard. I mean, and you can respect that. Everybody ain't tag teaming. Everybody ain't all kumbaya. When I saw them at the Olympics, Curry should have got the MVP of it. To be honest, but it was a LeBron shrine, and it was like all romanticized and everybody. No, I didn't see it. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Give me a synopsis of it, because I haven't paid it no mind, and I really don't want to. To me, the Last Dance was as good as it was gonna get. You Okay, so tell me what they talking about. Is it a pro Jordan or is it? Oh, you talking about Michael Jackson? Oh well, I have to. Yeah, I have to check it out. Well, the problem when you do Michael Jackson, it's like um, you have to do so many configurations. It's hard to get it right, and they'll never talk about the shrewd businessman he was. They'll never talk about the racial impact of what he had to overcome with MTV, with Billboard, what they told the black artists, the apartheid of radio. They're never going to go into that detail. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's due. Yeah, that's the film is get keep pushed back. So I don't know. Yeah, and I don't really I like Lawrence Tate, but I ain't never seen him portray nobody that I really like. The Quincy Jones thing was lighting the cakes with the Ray Charles thing. He's a really good actor, but I think he got once he got labeled as old dog or kind of playing a certain role. I did like him in Love Jones. He's got roles that I liked. I liked him in Dead Presidents. He's had roles that I liked. I liked him, you know, different things he's done, but he's never had. And I think the most underrated role that he did was the one back in '94 with him and Jada Pinkett Smith. Why can't I think about that movie right now? But anyway, I know when the Inkwell, the Inkwell. If you never heard of the Inkwell, check it out. Joe Morton was in it. That's when Jada Pinkett was before she was Smith, and Lawrence Tate. I think he was on the spectrum. Made you think of a young Michael Jackson too. Underrated performance. That was probably one of my favorite movies he ever did. But him playing these Frankie Lyman was corny, and playing Quincy Jones, and eh, I ain't quite felt him like that. Not like that. But a good actor. The written that really good to very good. Yeah. I put it to you like this: if they put a budget behind him, he could have been um, in that Michael B. Jordan tip, minus the flex, but he definitely had that kind of brother role where he could act. He could have had somewhere between what Michael B. Jordan did and what Tay Diggs did if they put some money behind him. They ain't even put no money behind him. So, because he was also in that what's that one with Matt Damon with Ludacris where he got unalived in the end. The one that came out in '04 with Sandra Bullock. Not Traffic. I forgot. It was great, charismatic. Could have been like a black version of James Dean with a Brando edge. Had the chops. Definitely had the camera chops. Very charismatic. And had he kept getting roles, he could have had that Michael B. Jordan run too. He had a voice and a presence that you felt. one of the most charismatic cats in any style of music I've ever seen. That's why people still talk about him. It's the charisma. That's a lost art. And when you see a head on a stick that's got it, that's what people gravitate towards. It's kind of like Edwards right now at the NBA. He's charismatic, flaws, but we pull for him. We like him. When you got that kind of it, you know it. And there's certain cats that got it. That's what's up, and that's what sells. That's the selling point. But when you know you got it, you know that's what the merch. That's the merch. And I think that Pac kept showing that because Juicy was great in Juice. Poetic Justice was a bit over the top, but it was all right. It was all right. Um, but Above the Rim was a trip. Yeah, as long as both teams come at their best, though. But I'm not. I don't know. It's one of them. Yeah, I'm glad to see the two. And I tell you the truth, they should be battling for the next 4 or 5 years. This is where the West should be like. Because unless Houston can make a mighty move, and Denver can make a mighty move, Tyron Lue can get some pieces and unload some pieces. And Victor Wimby, we're gonna see if you're gonna ever come up to you can good. Getting better with each passing day, but you need a couple pieces and a couple pieces off the bench. You about 4 pieces away from maybe being a legit 6 seed. So, but yeah, this should be the matchup that we see for the next 2 or 3 years easily. Both young teams with the young leaders. This makes sense. Kind of like the Pacers and the Celtics if we think about it. Or the Pacers and I don't say the Knicks because the Knicks, I think it's a winner. I don't think unless of course they can attract something in the off season. They'd be better off if they lose, you know. Which I just don't buy them as that kind of legit team. But there are certain teams that I see that I could definitely see coming back again. But that don't mean the Knicks can't go off and win at all. But the problem that you see with a lot of the parity now, you can win it all and you could be a 1 year wonder and be done. So all right. Let's get some comments going. We've been talking. It's been good so far. I think there's a lot more viewers out there, and it's like, come on, let's get it. Yeah, I will say that the matchup is definitely something I could see happening for 2, 3 more times. The Portland Trailblazers went to 2 finals in the West. Should have been three. Utah Jazz went to two. Could have been three. Sonics should have been better than they were. Um, Houston won back-to-back chips. Spurs were in two Western Conference Finals, and they did eventually win at the end. So how do you call it parity? Because I pointed out that Portland went to 2 finals in the '90s. Houston went to 2 finals in the '90s. Utah went to 2 finals in the '90s. Phoenix choked most of the '90s. Seattle choked most of the '90s. They did get to a finals. Spurs went to two West Conference, went to a finals and won. So, uh, what you're saying has validity, but then it's the other part. Yeah, I'm just pointing out because remember I got to put this all on memory, and I had to like think about it for a moment how you were wording it. Yeah, the Bulls were better for a couple reasons. They had a better team that they matched up with those teams, and there was no dominant center that they faced in the finals. Shaq was young at the time. The Shaq that was with the Lakers would have been interesting to see how that would have gone up against in the peak of the prime. They never had to go against Hakeem. Would have been interesting. Lakers, the Blazers, the Suns, the Sonics, the Jazz all didn't have a dominant low post center. Made a difference. Could have made a difference. Wasn't a lot separating actually. The Lakers got hurt that first run, but I thought the Bulls were better. Blazers were out mentally outsmarted. That Bulls Sun series is still one of the most strangest series I've ever seen. Both teams went on the road, crazy games, hard to put in the work. The one against Seattle, Ryman stole that. And the ones against Utah were pretty evenly matched, except the Bulls had better depth off the bench, and they had enough to beat them. But it was fairly close. When we talk about Jordan's winning and all that, there was still fine lines that were fairly close. It wasn't like they were just running anybody over. Maybe you could have said they should have ran Seattle over and the Lakers series, but the other ones were pretty close. They came down to dramatic plays. They came back from 15 down to beat Portland in that second chip. The Phoenix series was crazy because Paxson hit the game winning shot and the Kerr and the Utah one and the last one Jordan. So pretty close series in hindsight. They won, but they weren't like, you know. So well, they faced Utah 2 straight years, almost three. Except Seattle beat Utah in '96. It was almost three straight. So that, hmm. And that Stockton and Malone team were always knocking on the door. Yeah, they had a great record. I don't know if they were a great team. When I think of a great team, I think a team that looks like I think could have won a chip. I didn't quite look at them as that team. I didn't. I just thought Scottie Pippen called them dumb. I think it's the way they played, the way Rick Alderman just couldn't execute a couple of things. Cause I don't know. I think that '92 team was probably the best of the Bulls' run because they played at a high level. And when they beat Phoenix, that was just basically Jordan imposing his will. They were what I call more athletic. The first three-peat, the second three-peat was more mental. Which, if you ask me, in the annals of everything, the mental is more powerful than the physical. So it depends on how I look at it. That's how you look at it, though. Okay, I think I got about 7 more minutes. I think I'll be on for 7 more. You definitely inspired me with a couple of videos because I got to do the Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler, which I will definitely. I'm gonna get on that one. Yeah, I appreciate you coming through. I thank you for, and I'm gonna do that one about Jalen Brown too. Man, appreciate you always. Appreciate you always. You make it worth coming live, bringing your knowledge. Uh, I enjoy your video, your videos, your presentations on YouTube. So thank you for always coming through. The best to you and your pops and family, man. Appreciate you. And thank you as always. It's definitely appreciated. Standing ovation. Standing ovation. Thank you. Great conversation as always. Great commentary. And definitely. We gotta do it again soon. I'll probably come back. I'm thinking about tomorrow and Wednesday for sure. So have a good one. I'm gonna be here for a few more minutes unless somebody comes through because I'm gonna look and see if anyone's gonna come through. People got quiet and it's like, yes, I was here today. I told you I was gonna be here today. Poll numbers is kind of low and likes is too. So let's get some likes and get some clicks going up. You know, if you're on, feel free, and you want to talk, feel free. through for, you know, I don't think I'll do as long as I did the previous unless someone comes through. Last two episodes I've been on for like 2 plus hours. This one I think I'll do like an hour and a half with it. But you know, yeah, he really left so much to be desired with you know, where he was coming from with that. I just think that when I think back in that time, and again, I'm just putting in perspective because of what I remember, like it was so vivid, like yesterday. The series really weren't that deep, so they really took on a different hold and a different feel. So, but yeah, great conversation about reminiscing about Portland. So that's what's going on with that, though. So we're just, yeah, we've definitely tapped into a lot of that. Um, and we'll see what we got. Got a pretty good feedback with this. I'd say probably take a drink from Bill Cosby because I don't. And how you doing today, TK? Wherever you're coming from. Uh, well, Cosby didn't do it so much with dudes. Uh, the Diddy thing, you had an option. Actually, you got options with both of them. People didn't stay at the Diddy parties. Denzel Washington spoke about bouncing, but Cosby wouldn't go probably try it just with anybody. So I would probably assume that the drink from Cosby would be more legit than the Diddy party. But equally saying, just saying, yeah, most people walked out on both. So it all depends on what your situation is like. That's an interesting question, though. But I have heard people leave Diddy parties and people who didn't get tore up at the Cosby parties, which is pretty much one and the same. It's no different than going to the Hefner bashes. What's up? You on for a minute? Because I'm going to be on for about 20 more minutes. I've been here for like an hour and a half. So, what's up on your mind? Well, you sit up locked up for a half a year. You don't have no Grecian formula. You would be too. You ain't so pretty no more when you ain't got the people that be at your heck and call. No pause, just saying. You know, it's a big difference when you having Ciroc and you on your yacht as opposed to being in your tank in your pod. Yeah, I don't know about that. This is a bit much. Every game you got to come back like that, and you. That's why they're not a great team. It's nice for the fans. It's almost like it's a script, but it looks a little bit staged though. They're not that good though. Yeah, it's like it just took you only what 90 games into the season. I'm like, come on, man, use your noggin for a change. Why every series ain't meant to go 6, 7, but you tend to do that. You went five. Let me do the math. Let me see if I'm actually right. So five, six, that's 11 plus 82, 93. Yeah, close to 100. Think about it. This is the 33. So this was their 96 game. So yeah, then we'll take your 100 before you finally go. Oh, maybe I'll use my bench. I'm like, where you been? That's what the NBA hopes. I don't. If OKC is meant to beat them. If Minnesota's meant to beat them. But I don't want to see no seesaw about two teams where if you can beat, you win. But OKC got to be embarrassed though. You don't get spanked like that in Game 3. In Minnesota, you don't beat nobody like that when you didn't really show up in part of the two games where you got to hustle. So it's not good basketball. But there's other agendas at work here. They're hoping that both series go 7. I think deep down they hope Minnesota, New York go to the finals because then they'd have the marquee marketing team, and then they have the marquee player. that couldn't have been more scripted if you tried. Because OKC in Indiana just ain't gonna sell tickets unless, of course, you are a diehard fan. Am I saying there's a conspiracy at work? Who's WS? I bet you. I bet you. Somebody gonna have that story. Well, yeah. If you do that sort of thing, you definitely gonna get the brakes beat off you. Yeah, they always got them doing that mess. It's the Ken and Karen show, and somehow they want to use their mega hats and. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I've heard about that mess. Like the one woman at the McDonald's or something. Yeah. Do it all the time, trying to get some sympathy, trying to rile it up. Yeah, well, it's comical because people know what the agenda is. It's kind of like Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to talk about free Jarek Chauvin. You you know what's up at work. It's the ridiculous. What happened? What happened? That's the adrenaline because then it's that fake tough guy or tough girl popping your gums, and then you get that Will Smith 2 piece special, and then you like looking dumb, and then you get charged for inciting something. Yeah, how about that? But it happens all the time, though. That's the only reason why I'm asking about it because that happens so regular that I've noticed that a lot more. Trump gets their adrenaline. It's almost like hearing a guitar solo. They start to think they tough. So anyway, let's see what we got real quick. No, he knew where he was at. That's done on purpose. They know where they are. Think they ain't got no Google map? They know what a rough neighborhood. You know where your neighborhoods is. We did that back in the day. Back in the day, we knew which part of town to go in and what not to. Now, a cat would like to look like he's getting attacked to justify it. Maybe he think he can start him a GoFundMe and be just like that chick that did that with that black boy. You know, you'd be surprised the antics and the tactics they go through to get paid. So they can go say, see these animals, yeah, you know. Now, if he goes in there and he can sing like Bobby Caldwell, he walks out of there, nobody say nothing. But he going in there to start something because he knew that hey, he gonna stick his chest out like he Popeye. And again, that's what superiority complex. That's a situation. That's all it's about. There ain't nothing new. And I saw it. A black man did it in a movie once called 48 Hours. Eddie Murphy had the cowboy hat and then went to the Billy Bob restaurant and said, no, got a new sheriff in town. And it's like some out of a movie. Yep. And they go like, hey, he got right you to the cookout. You got some word from the girl long ago. And we gonna be happy peace. And they're like, yeah, yeah. Doo doo woo 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 woo. And then they like they're gonna be thinking they're having flashbacks to what's happening. When Rerun had that tape recorder and he was dancing, hobbling. What's happening? He ain't gonna do that. Yeah, I said I was gonna come on a bit early because I wanted to get the middle because I gotta go somewhere in about 15, 20 minutes. So and I wanted to get on a little bit early. How you doing? How you feeling? No, Rappaport will only do it after the pylon. He'll come there after, like, say for instance, those cats diss a brother. and they like kind of like having like a burn sale or something, then he'll get in the mix. He ain't stupid. He ain't that high. He would have about 40 years ago. 30, 40 years ago, he would have been in there. He ain't gonna do nothing stupid today. Unless, of course, somebody like Stephen A. Smith that runs the bar, or you know, you got somebody like Terry Crews or somebody, but well, he does it when he knows he can get away with it. He'll come into a mix. It's one of those cats that once everybody else start piling on, like if they, so like for instance, if some cats were in a by a fire singing and say Diddy ain't Jack, but they that's when they do it. Oh well, now Kid Rock too, but I'm just saying, you know what's said about who? Rappaport. Rappaport's in a unique situation because they let him act like to hang out with the athletes. He hangs out with hip hop. He's like Fat Joe. He got this he got this pass. So I see Fat Joe and Rappaport being the same. mm, But you never gonna see Rappaport and Fat Joe at the same thing together. But they both in New York. Ain't that something? Just saying what I see. Just saying what I see. So, but they get allowed that pass though. I ain't got no problem with it. It's called On the Line. I got a video coming out about it. It's called On the Line. You can't stop what you can't tackle. So, hey, 300-pound lineman pushing your weight. It's all about the line anyway. The only problem they're gonna have is if a guy is doing like a submarine and he just kind of they flip him on the back of the lineman over to the end zone. But other than that, it's Dorothy Dandridge because Billie Holiday had made classic songs and had gone through so much. Dorothy Dandridge was in an industry where they was pushing Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield. No, you can't do too much push, but what you can do is push back. You gotta be figuring on the line. Oh, Philadelphia's defense is legit. Think about it. And if you got a legit defense, you gotta have some hind parts up there. That's all it come down to. You know what you're doing. It's all about the line. The NFL is complex, then it's not. Beat you on the line. You win the line, you win the game. Not rocket scientists. Not rocket science. Dorothy Dandridge, because hers was really Carmen Jones. She really had a chance to never really got to take it, and especially for a black female actress at the time, unless you're gonna play a mammy or something like that. And no disrespect to Hattie McDaniel, but they weren't pushing black females in a positive light, especially with what they were doing. No, show didn't. Dandruff was the truth. Billie Holiday was rough around the edges, but she was again spoke out. But that was how the game was. She had no. She was almost in a situation that's how she got to the Oscars, but she paid. She got that's part of the job, and I don't hold it against her because Hattie was strong, but she played a role. But that's how that's how she was able to work. That's how it was. I don't hate against her. I don't. I respect her as an actress, but she had to sacrifice all that. Meanwhile, allegedly Clark Gable was cosplaying as being white. So, because Clark Gable has some lineage, but just saying. So, but it was a it was a tricky time. She did that right before Jackie Robinson broke the color line in baseball, but it was in different, different. Hallie had crossover appeal because of her imagery. I can't say that because I seen her movies, and there wasn't no bucking when she played a crackhead in Jungle Fever. Clark who? Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you got to do the casting couch in Hollywood. You do know that, right? man or woman, you consider a pretty face. That couch, bring your couch, bring them cheeks over. I told you all the time. Yeah, I do because it's a known fact in the industry. Streaming is no different than album sales. People pay. Actually, when you put records out, that comes out your budget. You are paying for that. That's an unwritten thing that a lot of people don't know. When they talk about shipment, so if you ever read Billboard magazine and they talk about album certified platinum or this, it's called shipment. That comes out your budget. So that's part of your budget. So when records get sent back to the companies that didn't sell, you're paying that. That comes out your budget. That's on you. So yes, you can pay for streams. You're paying for the product. So do I believe that? Yeah, because he was pretty giddy and talking about her should win album of the year last year. So yeah. Oh well, you know what? I liked around the. I might do a later video about it because I really didn't really like it. And I thought that this is my thoughts and takes. I told you about Jay Mariotti. That turned me off. Woody Page. I know Jordan gave him love and all that. I didn't like what he said about Kareem. I never got over that. And I think that at first it was the first 4 or 5 years, but then and Max Kellerman was decent on the show. Tony Reality came and took over, but I lost interest in it. I lost interest in it. Too political, too much. When I say political, I'm talking about that ESPN politics, not the general. Just all the slurps. So I never really saw a real show. He said he would never give Kareem a job as a journalist because he has that credentials. You do know when you're a sports, you can write up what you want to write about. Yeah, you. So Charlene, there's the category for record of the year, which is the song. Artists pay that out their pockets. I think it's 250. They pay for that. Those awards are bought and paid for, by the way. It's all politics. I do believe he did. Oh yeah, he said that like 20 years ago. I remember watching the episode one afternoon and he made a very defiant face. He says, "I wouldn't give Kareem an endorsement because I didn't like the way he was." Yeah, he said that, and Kareem never did get a head coaching job. Take that for what you want. How does a cat that worked for the Denver Press can have so much sway over someone that's playing in L.A. and that was born in New York? But hey, white man, black man, politics, words talk. Those sports writers carry some sway. You know, and it's where they are. The Hall of Fame, the whole thing. The writers got too much sway. So that's one of the reasons why I don't really care about that show because they bought and paid for. I liked it once upon a time, but then I lost interest in it. Few people come on that show I like, but well, it was a decent attempt at something that should be natural. But the problem is that with her, everything is over the top, hoopla, hype, marketing, and then when it dies out, that's it. Well, this is the thing. Wilborn did some shuffling himself because let's be realistic. I watched him as a football guy. He won't acknowledge Barry Bonds as the greatest home run hitter, so I stopped watching PTI for that. Wilborn likes when Stephen A. slurps him on them shows about he's a legend, all that. He bops his bald head and agree, and he likes all that. He settles for that. So Wilborn is bought and shuffled. Okay, he sits there and lets that man say that. Yeah, he rings circles around Stephen A. But you know the problem was Wilburn got tired of with Tony Kornheiser because Wilburn is what we call a voice and a face for radio. He does not have the kind of charisma. He never had what Stuart Scott had. And the baddest cat I ever saw on ESPN was a guy named Ralph Wiley. If you know anything about Ralph Wiley, that brother could run circles around all of them because he could talk about pop culture, sports, music, movies, racial. Drop the mic. Okay. Ralph Wiley was the baddest. That was the most beast. That was the beast. His his diction was like Rakim in hip hop. Wilburn is good, knowledgeable, great Midwest, all that meat and potatoes. Yeah. And that was where the real cats were. Michael Luperper, who before sometime he acted kind of funny. Mitch Albin, I used to watch all that. John Saunders was a beast. Tarico was a beast. I mean, cats who could give you a circle and a run. If you want knowledge and drop, there you go. John Sanders to Ralph Wiley, them. Yeah, because Wilburn is funny time. And I don't really, he's knowledgeable. I give him his depth, but two things work against him. It wasn't until LeBron went in and started dissing that all of a sudden now he act like he just woke up. Well, LeBron been dissing y'all, but you got to kiss the ring. You know what ESPN plantation is, Wilborn. You know what's up. So, look, I can respect his knowledge, but I don't have no love for him. And Tony Kornheiser and them always get the black cop, white cop, like, oh, I didn't know about the racial. I didn't like the guy that's taught you something, and you've been around since the 60s, 70s. You were covering what was going on a very divided country and world with Ali and Kareem and Bill Russell and Jim Brown before you got to OJ and all that, and you just woke up to race relations because Mike Wilburn came along, and then it's like, oh, they know they belong good together. I mean, I like the chemistry, but I'm not trying to hear this Ebony and Ivory jive. This is what they sell you on. That's what they sell you on. So, no. I stopped watching PTI when that whole mess dissing Barry Bonds. I stopped watching that garbages too. And then of course Tony Kornheiser with the whole Hannah Storm thing, all that. Kornheiser was bad. Like these cats got knowledge, but I don't like they takes because they're not all about sports. It's political with them, and they don't be. See, when you have genuine people on these shows, you will say from your heart and your chest. Not that you have to say, "Oh, LeBron's on the Mount Rushmore," and I have to say it because it's the company thing to say, and the diss Barry Bonds and to do all that because they don't want them to be. Now, Robin Roberts was bad because she could actually articulate. She actually is what we call a journalist without being caught up in the Kool Aid. There's a difference. Most of them now got to look and primp and prop, and they got to be like either moderate or say what they want. No, I like Pam Oliver's real. That's a different network, but she's real. Robin was the more knowledgeable with Pam Oliver right after that. But Robin Rob could go anywhere with it. So this is good, yeah. Joy is decent, but a lot of it's because of her brother, and she knows she can carry enough to do it. But there's always the couch involved with Joy Taylor, and you can't help but think about the couch. I don't feel the couch with Pam Oliver, and she's straight. I don't feel no couch, and Lisa Salter either. So, but that's what's up with all that though. Well, yeah, because the Stan, the brother from Louisiana, he got let go after 25 years. Stan, all what I'm talking about, light skinned brother. They let him go after 25 years. Stan, I found that out a couple of days ago. Yeah, it's always about that. See, Stuart Scott was one of the few guys who was bringing hip hop slang and catchy and all that, and they had, but they did at the time. These cats was doing it, but he had personality. Yeah, 25 years. Well, ain't got no use for him, and he don't fit the criteria. And he's not a no nonsense cat. He's actually a journalist. If you ask me why I let him go, because the cat actually goes and does his job. He ain't up there slurping. That's why I let him go. And plus, he don't sell no tickets. They want a sideshow, and they want you to slurp. You ain't slurping LeBron, and you ain't a sideshow, and they got no use. It's not about your journalism. Well, he got to retire because he wanted to. There's a big difference between him and Stan. See, and Corso, people don't even remember that he was a. They don't even because he got privilege. That's what they want. That's why I don't watch that janky network. Got People out here thinking Kendrick Perkins is some expert on some basketball. The guy is a mean mugger Hall of Famer. I give you that. Top three ever. Greatest mean mugging. But as far as his actual game, please. He was a clown. But this is what they sell you on. And it's a he cackling show. That's why they taking everybody from YouTube. Now they got sometimes they bring Gilbert Arenas on. They'll bring uh, Cam on. You know, they watching everything because they trying to get in bed with everybody to act like they hip. They doing a good. You know, it's got nothing to do with the product. He would say something idiotic like that. The thing is Doc Rivers just didn't have enough offensive mojo. But the Rasheed Wallace at center was the smartest move. It's just that they didn't finish. That's all. And Doc always loses by his coaching. Except back then we were cool with it because he went to two straight finals and he'd won a ring. So we didn't hold the past against Orlando and the Duncan thing once he had won a ring with the two. It wasn't to years to come later that that whole everything about him just unfolded badly. So now we look at Doc looking. No, everybody's trying to catch a one-handed catch. After Odell Beckham, everybody wants to be a one-hand leaping Johnny, and they don't work on their craft. And are they. That's why receivers are being treated like running backs. They're treated like commodities. They can get anybody because it's like 4 or 5 years, and you're not really putting the work in. That's what Jerry Rice had over a lot of cats. So yeah, it's all about trying to catch the one hand and make the spectacular. There's a new slam dunk artist of the ESPN plantation as far as videos, a one hand catch. Cats ain't running. That's what happened with ODB. He caught that one pass, and that was his whole career basically. And that's what they do. Yep. Well, that's what Kendrick Perkins is going on. They're gonna try to blow him up. They'll give him a show or something. Because he's that's what they do. I think it's a combination of both because you got to think about why were you in that situation, but you can always look at the person that could have helped you out that didn't, and Jennifer Lopez too. Jerry Rice walked hills and did all kinds of things. He started the rack, run after catch, but guys used to want to be better, not just be mediocre and get over. And that's the difference what we're facing now. And the owners don't care because they'll get somebody. That's why Tyreek Hill's a good example. Tyreek got wheels, but he don't really utilize his skills. So do you know who did his lawyer was? Benjamin, I can't think his last name. He was a big time lawyer. And Johnny Cochran too. So look back at the lawyers that Diddy had back then. The industry put that money. Well, the whole thing, but it's not just them. Jay Z, Clive Davis, all of Beyonce, Mary J. Blige, all of them, all of them. There's a lot more going on. But he had top tier lawyers back then. He got good lawyers now, but he had Benjamin. I can't think of his last name. That cat was no joke. And then he had Johnny Cochran. He had people that he will to keep his behind covered if he gets locked up, and he has to keep money on the books. And I'm sure he's got money stretched right now. I mean, his case, truthfully, wouldn't be more than 10 years. Plea deal 5 to 10. He's done a stretch right now, so they could work out a happy medium. Uh, they can take him out right now. There are people to be blamed for your decisions because Shine was an artist and he took the hit for two people. So tell me how you justify happened to serve 10 years for two people who lied and who had lawyered up, and they put you in an awkward position. They paid you small pittance when they got out. One did. It's part of the industry. Now, the only thing that you can say about that is decisions you make when you enter this business, not knowing. But once you enter, you don't understand the ramifications. So, yes, people are accountable. They're not accountable, but they are. You're accountable for your decisions and choices. However, there are people who do benefit off of your decisions and choices, and they can do and help you if they choose to. They're not worried about him. How are they gonna be worried about a black man snitching? Unless, of course, he ties it to politics, and then he ties it to something that they have to explain that they can't. Then that becomes a problem. Epstein was bigger though because he had the tie-ins with Europe and everywhere else, and he tied Trump and Clinton's. So different hit though. But this is the thing: if they get him out, they ship him out. Well, there are people who do. Look at Trump. How you think he's in the White House right now? You gonna tell me he didn't have someone help him out the situation he was in? 34 times convicted felon. Do you explain that away? See, I understand your logic and theories, and you're right. We're talking black to black in situation, but we do see where people come in handy in no places. Like Rudy Giuliani. You haven't heard anything about him, have you? He ran out of money, but he ain't locked up. Smokey got because again, he didn't upset the wrong folk, and somebody wants to make an example of him. You up there gyrating, pumping your hips on these stages at 85 years old. They don't want you walking on there with a cane or a walker in 10 years doing what you're doing. Somebody been watching him. When they get to 50 mil, that means they trying to break him, and somebody's deep on him. And I can't say, as I love him as a songwriter, he might be the GOAT, but I can't say that this story is not true because his actions and angles, he had to see this happening, and something don't add up. And I don't think they just picking on him. Yep, somebody watching him, and you know, they don't. We know. I'll say this: 40 years ago, before you were born, if you'd have told me he was a crackhead when I saw his album cover, he had a jerry curl and he had swole. He'd been working out, and never would assume that he was a junkie. So, that's probably what they gonna get at. And he had a lot of surgery on himself, So I don't put nothing past nobody in that business because it's a business where access is whatever you want to do, and it is the entertainment industry. I always say cheeks for checks, booty for looty. It's Fleece Johnson 101. The easy way or the hard way. That's to keep him looking younger because he didn't have all that surgery on his face. You can tell he had twists. Was it 20 years ago? I mean, 85-year-old guys, he's still rocking like. I mean, he's hold up physically because he's staying in his body, but all that hip. You see him on stage all gyrating. And he didn't do that when he was younger. Funny story was 40 years ago, he used to come out and say Prince was vulgar and all that. And I'm like, but look at you, man. You 85. Yeah, he did. That was about 6 years ago. But look at you. You 85 years on stage, all humping on the microphone and all gyrating. And them blue pills got you going crazy. If you see any of the video clips, you know what I mean. He be grabbing the microphone going, because it was an arranged union by a bad boy production, Charlene. Faith Evans was a writer on Bad Boy. She wrote for Mary J. She had the imagery before J Lo. She's half black Italian, and but she didn't. But you couldn't sell Faith. Faith did not have the it. Faith did not have the it to sell records. She did not have. She could sell R&B, but for her imagery, so she was an industry plant, and she was bought and paid for. She's the first lady of Bad Boy. She bought and paid for by Diddy. And if I give you enough money, and he don't have no rights, you're gonna have the rights. And then she ended up marrying in the family. She married Stevie J, the producer. Remember? So, yep, didn't have the it. Mary had the it. It's a business. You gotta remember. You know, like when I pull a puppet string and I do the ventriloquist. That's what the industry's like. So, we have puppets, and you have people behind them that pull the strings. And Faith did not have the it. She had the look like you think of complexion, all the hair, but she didn't sell. Just because she kind of like she and Mariah Carey could be cousins, that didn't mean that I was going to ching that we're going to sell you. She couldn't sell them. And Clive Davis wasn't. He looked at her. So I'm just saying, Lil Kim was more connected, and Lil Kim could sell, but she. Oh yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yep. They fell out. Her and Mary fell out. Mary ain't got no 5 million to give. Mary's still paying the ex-husband off. I know what you're talking about. Yep. Her and Mary fell out. Well, Diddy ain't around because Diddy used to keep the peace, and Mary ain't gonna say nothing because Mary's bought and paid for by the industry. Because Mariah need money. Mariah's also envious of Blue, of Beyonce daughter Jay Z. So that's what's up. They're trying to get that bag. Mariah trying to do what her mama did, even though she resented. But that's that business, y'all. Sacrifice too. But you ain't heard it from me though. That's what they do. And it sounds good on the resume that your parents is Mariah Carey and Nick Cannon. Think about it. It's just another PR production. That's all. Okay, I'm gonna go in about 15 minutes because I got to get out of here. So you talking about the artist Joe Jackson? That's from England, or you talking about Michael's daddy? Because there's two Joe Jacksons. I don't know which one you talking about. The artist Joe Jackson, I would say no. And Joe Jackson, Michael's daddy, I would say no. He didn't technically write any of the songs. Mm, but as a business manager, I got respect for him. As far as being that parent that put instill thatness, that business, because that work ethic is what got them to be great. Anyway, 10 more minutes and I'm gonna call it a day. Well, it again, but it also was some sacrifices involved. There was some sacrifices involved. Different era though. He was washed, and the thing is, they couldn't win with him. They never did go and get a legit point guard with him, so we'll never ever know. You know, the thing is, Michael Ray Richardson didn't pan out. Bernard King was hurt, so who knows what it would have been like if he'd have had those guys around him. But he missed on his own opportunities. He lost in the finals to the Rockets, and how he lost to the Pacers too. Finger roll. Joe was a very interesting cat. Randy got in trouble, but it didn't land it. But see, they had a lot of dysfunction. Let's not sit here and act like they didn't have dysfunction. They were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses. They had a lot of situations that weren't normal. Well, he never commanded to go and get it. They built the team, but they was building as him to being the leader. And Charles Oakley to this day holds it against him. He don't think he stepped up to the next level. And I one of the few times I agree with Oakley, I do. She came out later. But the other daughter that he had with the other woman reaped the benefits. Because Joe got two other kids outside of the family. That's a whole nother video, another story. They got a half sister, and she got treated best. And the mother did too. That's why they kind of got some dysfunction. Because you know the whole thing with Jermaine and Randy sharing the same baby mama. Jackie Jackson situations in his marriages. They only Marlon and Reby pretty much kept things foundational, just keeping it real. I ain't gonna say all that because what I know, it was kind of dysfunctional. He respected them, but it was a little bit. Yeah, Randy and Jermaine, look it up, in the same house at the Encino family house. Tito did that. Joe was Joe was playing the field. Joe was always playing the field. Everybody knew about Joe. Mm-hmm. Jermaine and Randy shared the same baby mama. Mm. And I think she had a tell-all book. One of them did. That Jackie Jackson messing with Paul Abdul, and that was it. Edna was the ex-wife. He's remarried, of course. He's got two kids. That whole thing was wild. They had to sell Michael's. Well, you come on the live stream. I always you ask, I'll tell you. You come on here, I'll tell you. The what was it? The Billie Jean had on Motown 25. That was part of the divorce settlement. Oh yeah, I followed a lot of stuff, yo, growing up. We didn't have no social media. We had Media Mind. And you remember things you saw and what came through. We didn't have that. People today should be way more advanced. I'm just saying. Richies. What you mean the Richies? Which Richies? What Richies? Oh, you talking about Lionel and all that? Oh, it's the Jacksons. Because the Lionel's thing is because of the daughter, but that's not really that deep compared to the Jacksons. Yeah, well, again, it all depends. The circumstances is different. Oh, Lionel's situation with his daughter, and she married the old boy, and it's not the same as the Jacksons, though. Besides, Lionel gets to cover a lot of stuff up with the money. No one really trips on Lionel's situation too much. But the Jacksons thing was way crazier. Yeah. It's not about perfect family. It's that there are things about having as much normality as you can. Two things I will tell you. If you're in that industry, you don't mix music and business. And the other thing is that no one hid nothing. That the artists ain't hid nothing. They went through what they went through. It's a lifetime of pain. You know, it's no one hide nothing. It's real. It's real. There was no hiding. It comes out eventually in some form of capacity. There's no hiding. Everybody that's been out there, it's been brought out because the money either got it or the fame or somebody just was just not feeling it and it came into fruition. So yeah. Oh yeah, but in that industry, it's compound because then you're forced to split up. You're forced to find who's the it. The Jacksons had to make Michael the it. The Barge had to make L the it. The Silvers had Leon to be the it. Those are the realities of it. And when you have those other forces with the excessive stuff, that's the other stuff that they expect you to get trapped on. That's what they do. And you're gonna get, and that's what happened with Donnie and Marie. So it happens with a lot of these acts. If you're not ready for that kind of business, it can add on to your vices. So whatever vices you have, it comes out even tenfold. So that's all. I got 2.5 more minutes before I'm gonna call it a day because I've been on for over two plus. I will definitely come back tomorrow, and it's been lively too. Yeah, and you're in an industry where they split you up and they start having teams. That's what Janet was trying to say about when she and Michael did the Scream video because he had his team, she had her team. You're no longer brother and sister. You become a commodity, equity. And then we got to put these things together. And it is set up to divide, to conquer. Well, I enjoyed the kind of questions I get asked too because we can talk this out as grown people and, you know, just share some of the knowledge of her life and so on. Because this is we having real conversations. We're not nobody's here candy coating. We're talking about real life situations and also about people that we grew up on and we watched and you know. But I'm telling you that, those kind of situations with money involved, politics involved, ego involved, and it doesn't end that good. It's not as simple as once we got a hit record, we all gonna share the money. They do that at first, and then that's when the people come in and they start dividing you to conquer you. And that's what it's done to do, divide to conquer. And sometimes you resent those people, sometimes you don't. I'll tell you something that you may not want to hear, but it's the truth. Um, Michael always wanted to break away from his brothers. There was resentment. And when he did that thing with the victory tour and said that was it, they were shocked. He did that for them for to appease his mother. That was to give them some money. He was done with them. So he gave them, but he was done with what they represented. And sometimes you break those chains. So it's deeper than you can imagine. And it's not to say it was all the case with all of them, but quite a few of them. And they looked at him as the celebrity, not their brother. Think that when they start looking at you as an ATM machine, that's real. So let that sink in there for a moment. That's not no hyperbole. I would dare any of the Jacksons to come and sue or come at me because I kid you not. He was seen as an ATM machine for a lot, and a lot of those cases, that's how it turns out, unfortunately. So if you don't put some boundaries up, people will try to take advantage of you and pat your pockets. Well, I mean, obviously Kanye's words were, but he's in the industry where he's ran and bought for. The Will Smith Chris Rock thing was handled like kitty court. Will's still making movies, ain't he? Still making whack ruckus, ain't he? I mean, they still let him do what they. Remember, I said the opportune word "let," because he hasn't upset the cart. They threw allegations, but nothing on Will. He got suspended Hollywood style, a 10-year ban from the Oscars for assaulting a man on national TV. Let that sink in. Anybody else may be looking at jail time, paying a fine. he got 10-year ban from the Oscars because they got to decide law and liberty right there. The powers that be decided law right there. And his next role was in a slave movie. Think about it. And then he got to do Bad Boys Part 18 and come up with a whack album. And he's got movies coming out. They decided the judge and jury for Will Smith. So anyway, Kanye saying what he said. They own him. No one takes him serious. So unless he commits something that they figure heinous, they just gonna let him pretty much rope his own self. But the Will Smith Chris Rock thing, the Hollywood powers that be took a 10-year ban from their show, and effectively they own him. I don't think people read between the lines. You ask me questions, sometimes your answers is right there in front of you. Did you not hear what I said? A man assaults another man, a black man, on TV, and he's banned 10 years from the show. Can he win an Oscar or be nominated? I don't even know. It doesn't even make no difference. They play judge and jury. Let that sink in. Where else do you know something like else like that would happen? So you ask the questions, I try to answer the best I can. And it's usually right there in front of you. Right there in front of you. All right. So I think on that note, since everybody kind of went their ways, I'm gonna call it a day. Appreciate it when they came through. Great questions, great times. Best memorial to everybody. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. Also, check out the videos, leave comments and thoughts. Anybody wants to donate, PayPal wants to donate anything, feel free. I am glad to have everybody through. I will be back tomorrow, God willing, everything. Peace, the blessings.